In this video, you learn 5 common myths associated with reading music notation on guitar. The fact is, reading music notation is not the same for all instruments. Hi, this is Simon Candy from Acoustic Guitar Lessons Online.net, and as a guitar player, do you need to know how to read music notation? Now, there's no definitive answer to that question. However, there are some very, very important things you need to know to make sure you don't waste hours and hours and hours of your time working on something that you may rarely use. It really comes down to your goals as a guitar player as to whether it's worth your time to invest into reading music notation. So with today's video, we'll go through these 5 myths and you can decide for yourself whether reading music is going to be relevant to you or not. Plus, I'll show you what is important with your guitar playing in the sort of area of music reading, if you like, no matter what style or what your goals are as a guitar player. Now, first, a disclaimer. I am not saying that reading music is a waste of time for guitar players. I know there's strong opinions out there on whether you should read music or not, and so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Okay, so that's the first disclaimer. Second disclaimer is if you want to learn to read music no matter what, go for it. Okay, it's a good skill to have. It's going to take a lot of time, so be aware of these things that we're going to cover, but if you want to do it, go for it. I've got no problem with that whatsoever, just laying it out there. And thirdly, I am aware that there are quite a few guitar players out there that can read music. There's jazz players, classical players, session players. It's all very important to be able to read notated music there. So not saying it's a bad thing, just exploring whether it's something you should be investing your time into or not. Myth number 1, reading music will make you a better guitar player. No, it won't. Okay, not as far as your technique and musicality and creativity is concerned. Reading music is simply interpreting dots on a line and linking that to where to put your fingers on the fretboard. That's it. It does not make you a better guitar player in terms of how you sound and how you can visualize things on the fretboard and how you can, create and sound musical. Reading music's got nothing to do with that. Yet a lot of people tend to think if I can read music, I will sound great. And that's kind of like me saying, if I look at this movie script and I can read that movie script, then I'm a great actor. I mean, no, I can read a music script, but I'm going to be really bad at acting that music script out, okay? So, does reading music make you a better guitar player? No, it doesn't. Myth 2, reading music is something you will do often as a guitar player. Well, for the most part, no, you won't. If you are a classical guitarist, if you play a lot of jazz, if you are a session player, yes, you will read music a lot or find yourself in a situation where you need to read music. Although I know some fantastic jazz players who cannot read music, so it's not absolutely required, but a lot of jazz players do know how to read music, and it is very handy to know how to read music in the world of jazz. Think about it. To read notated music, and I mean fluently, sight reading, takes thousands of hours of time and investment of your time to be able to do that. Now, think about it. Thousands of hours for what? What's the return on that? Maybe occasionally you come across, you're in a situation where you need to read music. Now, if you've got that skill, you'll probably use it a lot, but you don't need it. That's my point, okay? So, you could take those thousands of hours and you could invest into other things like visualizing the fretboard, learning your theory, learning the note names. You could use it for improvising, learning songs, building technique. These are things that you use every time you pick up a guitar to play. You want to be creative. You want to have technique to play what it is you want to play. You want to apply a theory concept. You want to write a song. You want to play a song. You want to jam. These are the things you want to invest your time into. Not so much reading the music, unless you are in a situation or going to go into a field that does require it, like classical music, jazz to a point, and session playing. Okay, so there are exceptions, but just think about that. Yes, it would be nice to be able to read music, and yes, you could use that skill, but do you need it? Because if not, how about you take that time, that whole chunk of time, hours and hours, and invest it into other areas of your playing where you will benefit every time you pick up the guitar. Myth number 3, pro musicians know how to read music. Most do not. Okay, many do, yes, of course, and as I've said before, jazz, classical players, session players. Yeah, these guys can read notated music for the most part. However, do all pro musicians know how to read music, pro guitar players? No, many don't. Let's look at Tommy Emmanuel, okay? He can't read tablature, let alone read music, but have a listen to him play, okay? I wonder where he's invested all his time. I'd say most pro guitar players can't read music. I would think the majority cannot, yet they play incredible music at the same time because they invest their time into learning the fretboard, learning and visualizing patterns, working on their ear, connecting their ear to what their fingers are doing, expressing and creating and sounding musical and all these things, working on technique and all these types of things. Not simply, again, reading notation is just interpreting dots on a page to know where to put your fingers, and it starts and finishes there. That's it. Myth 4, reading music is the same no matter what instrument you play. And this is absolutely not true. Let me demonstrate. So if we have a C note, for example, that you are looking at here on your screen, on a piano, that would be a specific key of the keyboard, right? That'd be one specific key, and that would be it. However, that C note you're looking at there on a guitar could be played at the first fret on the second string. It could be played at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. It could be played at the 10th fret on the 4th, or the 15th fret on the 5th string, and less likely, but it could be played all the way up there at the 20th fret or something on the bottom string. But the point is that C is played in multiple positions. So which one do you play? It's much more complicated on guitar. It's like you've got the keyboard, that's a linear set outlay of notes there. On the guitar, we've got 6 strings, so it's like we've got 6 keyboards there. It's more sort of three-dimensional, 360 if you like, and there's multiple positions that you can play a single note. So it gets very complicated when you're learning to read music on a guitar. It's one of the more complicated musical instruments to interpret music notation. Therefore, we have a system called tablature that I'll come to a little bit later, and I'm sure you know about. Okay, so there's a reason why we have tablature. It makes things simpler. Myth 5, learning to read music deepens your understanding of music theory and fretboard knowledge. Now, the thing is, music notation is not music theory, and this is a mistake people make all the time, thinking that music notation is music theory. It's not. For example, I can know that in a C major chord, we have a C note, an E note, and a G note. And I can also know where to play those notes on the fretboard. Lots of different positions that I can play a C, E, and G note. I didn't need to learn to read music to be able to do that. There was no reading of music. Again, reading music notation begins and ends with interpreting a dot on a line and your finger going down a particular position, fret, string on the guitar. For example, I can know that a 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression in the key of C is C, G, A minor, and F. Okay, I didn't need to know how to read music notation to apply that music theory knowledge there to my fretboard. And as far as fretboard knowledge is concerned, learning to read music will get you up on knowing where all the note names are on the guitar, and that's a great thing. You want to know where all the note names are on the guitar. Okay, and that's kind of half of reading music, right? Because once you can interpret the dot, you know, okay, I've got to play a C, I know my options as to where I can play a C. So that's good. But that's it. It's not going to show you how those notes relate to each other on the fretboard. It's not going to show you patterns. It's just simply note names. I don't need to know how to read music to play a C major or a C, rather that's more of a C dominant 7th arpeggio. I can name those notes: C, E, G, B flat, C, E, G, B flat, C, E, etc. But I don't need to be able to read music to do that. I know my note names. That is a good thing. We want to know that. That's part of fretboard knowledge. But we also want to know how they relate to each other, or how to group them to create sounds. And that's where scale patterns and arpeggios and chords and all that sort of stuff comes in. Okay, so what do we do? What is good in terms of reading when it comes to playing guitar? Well, tablature. Now, I know there's some people right now going, I hate tabs, I hate tablature. Then that's fine. Don't use tablature. I'm not saying either way here with notation and tablature. I'm just laying it out there. Tablature is great because it's going to show you exactly where to play a note, and it gets you playing your guitar much sooner than reading notated music. So even if you did want to learn to read notation, I wouldn't be teaching it to someone, in the early stages of playing guitar. I would want to get them up and playing first. So tablature, I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, know what tablature is, so we don't have to go into great detail here, but if there is a C note to play, it will tell me exactly where to play that C note, instead of me having to figure out which C note I'm going to play. So tablature, love it or hate it, again, it's only going to serve the purpose of getting your fingers into the right positions to play the notes. After that, it's all over to your theory knowledge, fretboard knowledge, technique, creativity, etc. All the things that really count. Now, reading chord charts, this is something that is really beneficial and that you will do a lot as a guitar player. It's not reading notated music. It's where you see the progressions of a song laid out in their sections, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, however it might be for that particular song. And you'll have bars, and you'll have chords, and you'll have repeats and all this sort of stuff, right? It's the basic overview of the song. That's something you'll do a lot. You open up a busking book and there's chord charts there for you to read and strum through. Or you look online and there's charts for songs that you want to be able to play. You're in a jamming situation and someone's writing out a chart for you, or you're charting something for yourself. This is a skill that you will use very often. So I highly recommend knowing how to read chord charts. And finally, rhythm notation. This is something worth investing your time into, and that's reading the value of the notes. So not the actual pitch of the notes, but how long you're going to stay on that note before moving to the next. And the reason why it's good to know how to read rhythm notation is because you will come across it a lot. A lot of tablature is a hybrid, if you like. It's got the pitch of the note tabbed on the string of the guitar that you're playing it on, and then you've got the rhythm below, or sort of extending from the number. So the number replaces the note head in traditional notation. So you will see a lot of rhythm incorporated with tablature, and it's very handy to be able to read that rhythm. Also, reading rhythms helps strengthen your time as a musician, which is everything. So that's something that will benefit you every time you pick up the guitar to play. The other thing is, in chord charts, often there'll be rhythmic notation depicting what the strumming is doing in a particular part of the song. So you'll be able to interpret that as well. So reading rhythmic notation, chord charts, tablature, these are the things that I recommend you learn, because they are things you're going to come across very often, day to day, and will benefit you every time you pick up your guitar to play. Reading notation, we can't say the same for that. So you've got to be very careful in deciding whether it is relevant to you or not, because if you think it is and it's not, you're going to invest a whole lot of time into a skill that you might end up having, but you're not really needing to use that much. And just think about the opportunity cost there, the cost of what you could have been working on during that time and developing that you would use every time you pick up a guitar to play. If you like this video, you'll love this ebook complete with video examples called 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. Do you struggle to make the fingerpicking patterns you learn on guitar sound like music? Perhaps it's because you believe in one or more of these fingerpicking pattern myths. 1. You need to know a lot of patterns to have your fingerpicking sound musical. 2. Only advanced fingerpicking patterns sound musical. Easy patterns are too basic to sound any good. Or 3. There is a magic pattern out there somewhere that once found will finally have your fingerpicking sound the way you want it to. None of these myths are true. This is because fingerpicking patterns alone are not musical. They're technical. It's what you do with the patterns that will determine how musical they sound. In this ebook, you learn how to make the most boring fingerpicking patterns sound amazing instantly. Plus, the simple trick to make advanced fingerpicking patterns easier to play, and the thumb and one finger trick that's so simple and will have your fingerpicking sounding pro in no time. Click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook complete with video examples, 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. You'll have it in your inbox within minutes. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. I read all your comments. I will answer. I love to hear what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts on music notation. It can really divide people, and that's perfectly fine. I would love to hear what you have to say about that topic. If you like this video, then hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the all-important notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I release a new video. This is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net. As always, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.